Okay, this is lesson number 21. We are creating this application or this grid at least, and this application is available on this website. And we have learned how, in actual practice, we have learned how to create this grid. And today's lesson is a recap of what we learned in last 6 lessons about the grid. So I will open my Sublime text editor and I will save this file as grid7.html on my desktop. And first of all, I'll create the basic structure of the HTML document, and in this head tags I will create a style tag, and within this style I will target every table element, and border 1 pixel solid black, width 350 pixels for example, height 350 pixels, and border spacing 0.5 pixels. Okay, so I will save it, resize my window, and this is my new application. I will change the size of it so we can see browser and the editor side by side. Now we have created some CSS style for the table elements, but there is no table element in this document as yet. So I will create a table, and as soon as I create this table, we have a table with these CSS properties. Okay, so I will give it an ID of square so that I can target it in HTML, and then I'll create a style script tag, Javascript, so where I'll write my script. Okay, so first of all we want to target this element, save it in a variable, so I'll say constant box document.get element by ID, and I will copy this ID because we're targeting this element. Now this element has been saved in this variable, and if I say console log box, if I save it now, refresh it, check my console, of course the table element with ID of square is saved in this. So we don't need this anymore. So next thing, I'll create another constant. I'll call it rows, and I'll initialize it with a value of 10. Then I want to run a function called render grid, which has not been created as yet, and in the following lines we'll create this new function. So the keyword is function, and then this is the name of the function, copy and paste, and then 2 curly brackets, and within this curly bracket I'll create a for loop for variable I is equal to 0, I is less than rows, which is this constant here, it means 10, I plus plus. Okay, so this is a loop, it will run until it reaches this length, and the length of this constant is 10, initial value is 0, so this loop will run 10 times. Okay, so what we want to do when this loop runs, we want to create an element, table row, and document. So every single time this loop runs, we're creating this element table row. Okay, and I want to run another nested loop. So I'll say for bar j is equal to 0, j is less than rows, j plus plus, and when this loop runs, okay, So you have to make a note that when this loop runs once, this loop will run 10 times, okay, because this is a nested loop. So every time this loop runs, I want to create another HTML element, table data cell, and this is how you create a new element with the help of JavaScript. So you have to give this element some CSS properties, and this is how you give an element properties. Okay, it says td set attribute, and I want to give it a style, comma, border 1 pixel, solid black. Okay, so we have given same attributes to this new element as we gave them to as we gave it a table. So if I save it, nothing will be visible as yet because we haven't appended this these elements to the table. Okay, so I will say tr append td, and over here I will say box, which is this constant here, append tr. Now that should create a table of 10 rows and 10 columns. If I save it now, refresh it, you have a table of 10 rows and 10 columns. Now we have to give it a color. So I will create a class called blue, opening and closing curly bracket, background color light blue. Okay, so we have created a class, but we have not given any we haven't assigned this class to this element. So let's do that. So I can create another variable, let blank is equal to 0 and let fill is equal to 100. Okay, so just to see if 100% of the cells or all 100 cells get this color. Okay, and after this td element we say blank is equal to blank plus 1. So every time this loop will run, it will add a value of 1 to this initial value of 0, and then it will become 1 and 2 and 3. However many times this loop runs, it will a value of 1 will be added. Okay, so now we want to create a new CSS class. So I'll say const new CSS class. This is the name of the constant or variable. You can use whatever name you like, and I want this new class to be equal to blank if blank is less than or equal to fill. There is a question mark. This statement means if the value of blank is less than or equal to fill, then give it a class of blue, otherwise just leave it blank. All right, so I will save it, and then I have to append this new class to this table data cell. Okay, so we can say td class name is equal to Control C and Control V. This is it. If I save it now, refresh it, my grid has a background color of blue. We want to randomly change this color, and for that I will have to use math dot seal method, and then within this method I will use math dot random to generate random numbers, and this method generates decimal numbers from 0 to 0.99. So I want to multiply that by 100 in order to create random numbers from 1 to 100. So we have changed this value here, which is initially it was 100 to fill all 100 cells, just to check. Now we are changing this value randomly. So if I save it now and refresh it, you have some cells that are colored blue, different number of colored cells are blue now. So it's changing the color randomly. So this was the recap of all that we learned in last 6 lessons. I hope you learned something from it. Thank you very much.